How's it going, everybody? Welcome to We Do Tech. Now, the Corsair Graphite 220T is one of Corsair's new mid-range mid-towers that you get with 3 fans, and it also comes out in 2 colors, black and white. It is currently retailing for around $110 on Amazon or 1,800 Rand on Rebeltech here in South Africa. As for the design, Corsair wanted to do something a bit different with this case. It does resemble the 460X quite a lot, but instead of going with another tempered glass front panel, they decided to spice it up with this cool arrow-like pattern that is cut out from the metal front panel. And honestly, I really like it. It's something a bit different and it definitely works. Now with this front panel, you do get a better airflow, being that there's no obstruction in the front. You can easily remove it and get access to the magnetic dust filter, which you just can pop off to clean. And then you do also get the 3 front fans, which we'll check out a bit later. Moving to the top for the I/O, you get your power switch, 2 USB 3.0 ports, a headphone and a mic combo jack, and then the reset switch. Moving in the tempered glass side panel, you're greeted with a clean, very spacious inside that supports up to ATX motherboards, GPUs up to 300mm long, and air coolers up to 160mm. The fixed PSU shroud covers up most of your cables, and then it also has a space in the front for up to a 360mm or 280mm AIO in a push and a pull config. For the top, you can either fit 2 140mm fans or a single 240mm AIO, but the clearance is going to depend somewhat more on your motherboard depending on what board you go with. Some do have quite large VRM heat spreaders, and that can get in the way of installing your AIO with your fans. Then you also get this magnetic dust filter on the outside at the top of the case, which you can just quickly slide off to clean. And then finally you get a single 120mm fan mount at the rear of the case. But speaking of the fans, Corsair included 3 of their new SP RGB Pro fans. That is a very nice upgrade to their previous SP model. The SP Pros are static pressure fans with a fixed RPM of 1400 with no PMW control. For the RGB, these fans do have 8 individually addressable RGB LEDs lining the fan hub, which you can control using Corsair's IQ software that gives you plenty of effects. Now getting into airflow, the 220T delivers a good amount of cooling, with the front having that open pattern and opening vents on the side. The open honeycomb patterns at the top and the rear does help with easy exhaust. And then finally for the PSU, you do have both rotations, bottom and upwards, for allowing plenty of airflow to be pulled in to cool your power supply. Now, I'm not sure how many people actually installs the PSU with the fan facing upwards into the case. Honestly, it's not the way I would go, and it is kind of an eyesore with this honeycomb pattern sticking out on the top of the PSU shroud. It doesn't look the best, especially if you wanted to have a nice clean build. It's not the best for me. But now moving into the opposite side, when removing the back panel, you get access to the 2 2.5-inch storage trays against the back of the motherboard, and underneath the PSU shroud, you get a removable hard drive caddy with 2 3.5-inch toolless trays. Now for my build, I did need to take out the hard drive caddy because otherwise there would definitely not be enough space for all of the cables coming from my PSU. So keep that in mind if you are going to work with a non-modular power supply with a lot of cables. You are going to have a tight squeeze, and if you do add more components with more cables like fans, it's going to be even harder to manage all of those cables, which we will talk about a bit later as well. Now then, along with the fans, Corsair also included the anode core that connects the SP Pro fans RGB cables, so you can control the lighting through the IQ software. Now, just to be clear, the Node core is not a fan hub. It doesn't allow you to actually power on the fans. It's just for the RGB. So you connect the RGB cables to that, and you can only use a single model on a single unit. So for example, the front ones is the SP Pro fans, while I installed the back and the top fans with the normal SP fans because I didn't have other SP Pro fans. And when connecting them both to the same node core, it didn't work. So I needed to install another node and run all of the cables through that for it to actually work. So just keep that in mind, because I know a lot of people have asked that type of questions when I did my reviews on the other Corsair RGB fans. Now, one problem that I had with the 220T, and it's the exact same problem that I had with the 460X, which resembles the case quite a lot, is that cable management at the back is very limited. There's honestly not a lot of space to manage your cables. There's only around 15 millimeters space clearance between the back of the motherboard tray and the back of the back panel. So if you're working with thick cables or plenty of cables, for example, if you install 6 fans and you need to install something like a Commander Pro or another fan hub, there's honestly not going to be a lot of space to close the panel on. It might close onto the panel, which might cause a bump. Now, again, that's a problem that I had with the 460X case, and that's the same thing that I had with this one. Now, I was able to manage all of my cables after a while. All I did was managing more in the front of the case, where it does curve in a bit more to give you a few more millimeters of clearance. But you also have to squeeze the back panel on very hard, otherwise it wouldn't fit in. But yeah, that's just something to keep in mind when you're doing all of your cable management and depending on the hardware that you're going to use. Now, moving to underneath the case, you get a 4 wide feet that gives you enough height clearance for proper airflow for your power supply, and then you also get the slide out PSU dust filter. Now, as to my experience building inside the 220T, I had no problem installing any of the components. There's enough space for all of the fans in the front and at the top. Just be mindful again for the clearance of your motherboard when installing something like a AIO with fans in. Installing the motherboard, no problem there as well. Again, you do have the option of doing a push-pull AIO config at the front. It might get a bit tighter then, but it will fit there. As for the cable management, again, space was a bit of an issue there for the back panel, and then also underneath. If you're not using a modular power supply with no unnecessary cables, then it is going to be a bit more of an issue, and that's why I needed to remove the hard drive caddy to add a bit more space. And again, I needed to add the Node Pro to install all of the other SP fans, because otherwise they wouldn't work, and that took up a bit more space again. So if you're looking to add a bunch of other accessories that you're going to need, fan hubs, RGB hubs, and other type of components, then spacing at the back will be a bit of a tight effort. As my final thoughts on the 220T from Corsair, it is definitely a nice case. It is a bit more on the pricier side, going for around 1,800 Rand or $110, but you do get 3 RGB fans that is included, which you usually don't get, and it's a bit more on the cheaper metal side. It is probably to do with trying to keep the price down a bit more. But I have felt other cases which is cheaper than this one, and it also included some fans which did feel a bit more premium. So that is probably the only other thing that is worth mentioning. But the case looks gorgeous, and I do really like that Corsair went with this front pattern cutout instead of a normal tempered glass front panel. Again, it adds something a bit different, and I honestly do like it. Yeah, that's pretty much it for my review of the 220T from Corsair. I do hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please like, share, comment like always. Big thanks to Corsair for sending this case over for review. And if you guys want to get it for yourself, I will leave links in the video description where you can get it on Revoltech if you live here in South Africa, or on Amazon if you live somewhere else. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and I will check all of you next time. Cheers, guys.